Hi everyone, this is Chapter 4 of Houdini and Me. Chapter 4, You Could Have Escaped. I couldn't believe it. That phone must have been 10 years old, at least. It had a black and white screen, and the battery hadn't died? Amazing. The screen doesn't light up unless the phone works, right? That's what I always thought. Not that I know much about cell phones. But technology moves so fast. I just assume anything that's so old isn't going to work anymore. Of course, I tried to test the phone right away. I needed a phone number to call. There's this horribly annoying TV commercial for a company that asks people to donate their cars to raise money for underprivileged kids. I've heard their commercial about a million times, and the 800 number would be stuck in my head forever. I dialed it and waited. Nothing. Nobody picked up. There was no recording. The phone didn't even ring. I tried calling Zeke's cell phone number, which I'd also memorized because I've called it so many times from the landline at home. Nothing. I tried dialing a few other random phone numbers. The same thing happened. The screen lit up, but the flip phone couldn't make an outgoing call. Too bad. Just when I was getting my hopes up. But that made sense, I guess. You have to pay extra money to get a cell phone service, I think. My mom pays over $100 a month. She's always complaining about it. But she doesn't use her cell phone very much, and I know she would never agree to pay for service for my phone, too. Bummer. I put the phone back in the box and went to sleep. When I woke up the next morning, my mom was already in the hospital with me. My headache was gone. The nurses were monitoring me closely, but it wasn't necessary. I was feeling just fine. They took the tubes out of me. The physical therapist was a really nice lady. She helped me get out of bed and walk up and down the hall. I had no problems. She showed me some exercises to strengthen my muscles. Then the speech therapist came in and did something called a swallow test on me. I must have passed the test because after that I was given real food, eggs, home fries, and toast with jam. It tasted great. Dr. Fisher came in, looked at my chart, and gave me an okay to be discharged from the hospital. My mom was overjoyed. When she wasn't looking, I stashed the box with the flip phone in my backpack. Someday, I hoped, I might be able to make it work. I told my mother that I didn't want to bring home all the flowers that people had sent, and she arranged for them to be given to other patients in the hospital who didn't have a family. But I boxed up the candy to bring home with me. I'm no dummy. I said goodbye to all the nurses and doctors who had taken care of me and been so nice while I was in the hospital. My mom had to sign a bunch of paperwork to get me discharged. Then an orderly rolled a wheelchair into my room to bring me downstairs. I really don't need this, I told him. I can walk fine. Hospital rules, he replied. I said that he was being awfully nice, but my mom whispered in my ear that the hospital wasn't just being nice to me. If a patient falls or gets hurt on the way out of the building, they might sue. So even if you only have a hangnail, they put you in a wheelchair until you're out of the hospital. Down the street, my mom hailed a taxi. It felt good to be home. The first thing I did when I got to my room was take the phone out of my backpack and stash it in the back of the junk drawer in my night table. I stuck it under some stuff so my mom wouldn't come across it while cleaning. For the first couple of days I was home, my mom treated me like a fragile flower. She didn't want me to lift a finger, but soon life returned to normal. I went back to school and everybody was really happy to see me. On Thursday, my mom didn't want me to go to Zeke's birthday party, but I talked her into letting me go. Have you ever been to an escape party? They're actually cooler than I thought. Basically, you get locked in a room and you have an hour to figure out how to get out. There's usually some kind of theme to the room, like it's a haunted house, a space station, or a secret laboratory. You have to solve a series of riddles and clues that lead to a solution in order to escape. Escape rooms were a big thing a few years ago. Everybody was doing them. So Zeke and I, his dad, and a couple of Zeke's other friends from his church went to this escape room place in Harlem. They have four different rooms. One is called the Hoosgrow, one is called Zombie Attack, one is called Treasure of the Catacombs. The room we were locked in was called the Dungeon. It was described as a human research project. The room looked like a prison cell, and everything in the room was there for a reason. Everything was a clue. For instance, there were a bunch of gummy bears glued to one wall. At first, we just thought that was strange, but then we figured out that the numbers of red, green, yellow, and blue gummy bears gave us the solution to a 4-digit combination lock, 4523. The lock opened a cabinet. There was only one thing inside the cabinet, a flashlight. But it wasn't a regular flashlight. It was a blacklight flashlight. When we turned off the lights and shined the flashlight at the wall, a bunch of letters appeared there that couldn't be seen in the regular light. That letter code opened up another lock. You had to solve a bunch of puzzles like that in a specific order to get out of the room. There was a timer on the wall that counted down to tell us how much time we had left. I won't bore you with all the details. The words we saw on the wall didn't make any sense, but we noticed that the first letter of each one spelled Scoob. That's where we got stuck. The puzzles were really hard. When the timer clicked down to 10 minutes and we still had a few clues to solve, we knew we weren't going to get out of the room. We were stumped. The whole thing was exhausting for me because there was no place to sit and I hadn't done a lot of standing in a long time. It was still fun anyway. When the timer buzzed, the door opened and one of the employees came in to rescue us. "What does the word Scoob mean?" I asked her. "Sorry, but I'm not allowed to tell you the answers of the clues," she replied. "Come back and try again sometime." "Oh, come on." She told us not to feel bad because most people don't figure out how to escape from the room. She gave us a discount coupon for our return visit. Afterward, Zeke's parents took us all out for dinner at this place that makes amazing ice cream sundaes. It had been a long day for me, and I fell into bed early. I tried to read a little bit from my science book for school, but felt my eyelids closing. So I turned off my light and pulled my covers up around me. That's when I heard a soft buzzing sound. Bzzz, bzzz, bzzz. What's that? It sounded very close, like it was in my room. I flipped the light back on and looked around. The buzzing sound seemed to be coming from my night table. I opened the drawer. The cell phone I had stashed in there was vibrating. I flipped it open. These words were on the screen. "You could have escaped." That was it? Huh? The phone actually works? I thought to myself. But I figured it had to be a prank. "Who is this?" I whispered. I didn't want my mom to hear me from the bedroom. "Zeke?" There was no response. Of course not, I thought, slapping myself in the forehead. It was a text, not a call. The phone didn't work as a phone, but it could transmit texts, or it could receive them anyway. "Who is this?" I tapped clumsily on the little keypad, making a few typos along the way and correcting them. There was no response. "Is this you, Zeke?" I tapped. Nothing. It was probably the escape room place, I figured. They were taunting me. I'll bet they send that text out to everybody who doesn't escape, so they'll come back and try again. Zeke must have gotten the same message. I made a mental note to ask him about it at school the next day. I put the flip phone back in the drawer and laid there with my hands behind my head. It was hard to sleep because I couldn't stop thinking, how did anybody get that number to send the text? And why would they be sending a text to this random phone in the first place? I never gave them a number. I didn't even know the number myself. These thoughts were going around and around in my brain. And one more. Who left the box with a flip phone in my hospital room? And why? For a moment, I considered getting up and going to tell my mom what was going on. But then I thought the better of it. If she knew I had a phone and that it worked, even just to receive texts, she'd probably take it away from me. I rolled over and was almost asleep when bzzz, bzzz, bzzz. I turned on the light, opened the drawer, and took the cell phone out again. You should have escaped. It had to be Zeke, messing with me. He must have been the one who sent the old cell phone to my hospital room as a joke. That guy cracks me up. How could I have escaped? I tapped. A few seconds passed, and then this appeared on the screen. Scoob is books backward. There was a bookshelf on the wall. So? I tapped. One of the books had a key inside. It would have opened the desk drawer. Of course, it was so simple. They probably cut out the center of the book's pages to hide the key. We should have been able to figure that out when we were in the escape room. The solution was right under our noses. Zeke must have been thinking about it all night. How do you know that? I tapped. A few more seconds passed, and then this appeared on the screen. Let's just say I'm good at escaping from things. Pretty smart, Zeke. I tapped. It's not Zeke, my screen said. Then who are you? I tapped. 3 dots appeared on the screen, and they were there for a long time, which suggested that he, or she, was writing a long reply. Finally, the dots disappeared. I was a little more surprised when they were replaced by just one word. Houdini. Wow. All right, so that's the end of the chapter. Bye now.